Morning. I'm Sean Williams, certified professional inspector with InterNACHI and with Iron Phoenix Inspections. And today we're going to go through a home inspection of this home built in the early 80s. It's a tri-level, and we're going to see what we can find. All right, so first things first, just kind of proceeding to the right, looking at some of the electrical outlets, things of that nature. We have a lot of adapters here, so we do want to check a representative amount of electrical outlets, especially those that are accessible. So kind of checking this here, still lights up. It's still correct wiring, no open ground condition or anything like that. And we definitely want to check anything that we have access to. Kind of moving over here to these windows. Sometimes there's difficulty. Sometimes it's difficult to access the windows because there are things in the way, but we're going to give it a shot today. These windows actually look to be relatively new. But that is also something that's included in the standards of practice, is that we want to check a representative amount of windows. We're going to check the operation, make sure the sashes are good, make sure they open and close correctly, make sure the thermal seals are in good shape. And these are all things that we can report on because they're important to the client. Some of them are safety items, and some of them are convenience features that improve energy efficiency. Continuing, we have this electrical outlet here. And that kind of concludes the floor outlet area of this room. Kind of like to look at the ceiling, see if we have any moisture stains, anything of that nature. And of course, take a peek in the closet to kind of see if there's anything of that nature as well. Now, one thing I will say, it's a bit different. So we have look like a data cable coming through a conventional electrical outlet plate, I guess I should say. Doesn't look like there's any wiring that's problematic, but there is an outlet on the other side of that. You don't really want to move people's stuff to check things too often. The outlet's in good shape as well. One of my favorite things to check, because I'm kind of a taller guy, is the ceiling fan and the tightness at the top. This is kind of an important topic to me because I find a lot of loose ceiling fans over beds. So if you look at this ceiling fan at the mount, which is on the ceiling, it's kind of loose up there. Now this also has a ball, so this part down here should move. But at the ceiling, it should not move. So that can indicate that there's possibly looseness at the mount and the screws need to be tightened. Or it also can indicate that there's the wrong kind of mount in there altogether, because there are different mounts that serve different purposes. So if there's actually a mount that serves a lighting fixture, kind of like the lighting fixture we have at the ceiling here, then that mount may not be adequate for a ceiling fan. And there's no way to know. All you can really do is just make sure the ceiling fan is tight. And if it's over somebody's bed, you know, you can possibly save someone's life if it's really, really loose. And I mean, this is loose, but this is nowhere near as loose as I've seen, especially over beds. So that's something that's pretty important to me. Now kind of moving further into the kitchen, we have some things here. We have a GFCI outlet that trips, resets. We also have a sink with the garbage disposal here. So we're gonna fill this up. Kind of looking at the counters. Looks like we can use some caulk back here. That's one of those honey-do list things. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a serious material defect. And that's kind of how I like to grade things. You have things that are serious, detrimental to your health and safety, that are true material defects. You have things that are requiring the use of a contractor to help you fix, that may be bigger than something that a homeowner could do themselves. And then you have the honeydew list. And something like this kind of falls in the realm of the honeydew list. So we're here at the kitchen. We're going to test the sink and also the dishwasher so I can load the plumbing system and kind of drain those at the same time. So one thing we have here, we have a gas range that's a bit older. It's not digital. And another thing that we have is we have a fan that is recirculating. It's not an exterior vented fan. So whenever you have a gas range, you always want to have an exterior vented fan because it can be a potential carbon monoxide hazard. There's a window that's relatively close, and that's a good thing. However, this is still a material defect because we want to make sure that people are safe. So I would just recommend there's an upgrade of an exterior exhaust fan for this gas range here. I'm gonna turn this on. Kind of let that heat up a little bit. So one thing about kitchens with outlets, one thing that they like for safety is to have a GFCI within 6 feet of any water source. So when I tested the outlet that does not have the GFCI reset buttons, it did actually trip the GFCI. The ones over here do not, but they are further than 6 feet from a water source. So that qualifies and that makes it safe for usage of those GFCI outlets by the water source. So the water temperature is about 136 degrees, which actually runs a little hot. If you have clients that show up with children or something like that, it's a good idea to say, hey, you can adjust the water heat at the water heater. 136 degrees is a little hot. I like to see between 120 and 130, but we don't want anybody to get burned or scolded. Now I'm going to drain this here to kind of load the plumbing system. So I'll drain the dishwasher. I'll also take those out there, turn on the garbage disposal. Doesn't look like we have any visible leaks. However, one thing I'll mention with the dishwasher drain line, there's not a high loop. So typically what you want to do with the dishwasher drain line is kind of put this up toward the top so that it drains properly and that it doesn't just lay down and have a bunch of junk get caught in it. So that definitely be a recommendation. We are going to check the temperature on this gas range here and kind of take a look at how the burners are operating as well. Now we're cooking with gas. So I set this to 350 and we're actually closer to 500. So definitely works. It's definitely effective. The broiler is another thing that we like to check just to make sure that it's in good operation. That should usually come on a lot quicker. Sometimes on these units, it's actually down here, and this actually is one of the broilers that is designed this way. So we actually have the broiler positioned in this area. A lot of times people use these for storage, things of that nature. But this can actually be like more of a bread tray, broiler area. Can be used for cooking. So that is the broiler, and it looks to be in pretty good shape. Okay, so we have come to the upstairs level of this tri-level home. And, we have been told that these rooms are inaccessible. So that's always something that you may encounter. Sometimes there's a room locked. Sometimes there's just no access to certain areas. And you have to just make that known in your report so that you can adequately disclose that information. And sometimes I'll go back as a courtesy for my clients to do a reinspection if access for that location is provided. So, and that's really a good thing because a lot of times people want to know. So here on this level, just kind of peeking at the closet here, the linen closet. Everything appears to be in pretty good shape. No leaks or peeling paint. So just kind of observing this hallway. One thing that I noticed immediately, since I've been in this house, I've seen one smoke detector. And that's it there. In addition to that, we don't have any carbon monoxide detectors. So, as I've mentioned from our time in the kitchen, we do have a potential carbon monoxide hazard, but we don't have a carbon monoxide detector. So that's a danger already. That'll definitely be in the report, and that's definitely something that's important because carbon monoxide is a silent killer. So moving now into the bathroom, which is accessible. We're going to operate the fan. We don't have a stopper for the sink here. That's on the honey-do list. But we want to make sure that there's no leak at the drain because I see a bit of a gap there. So it doesn't look like we have any leaks present at this time. Shut-off valves appear to be in pretty good shape. We have a GFCI outlet directly next to the sink here. So this is always fun. So I tripped the GFCI outlet, but this particular GFCI did not trip. So a lot of times when that happens, the GFCI could be in the kitchen, in the main panel, in the basement, the crawl space, who knows? But now we've created a situation where we get to hunt for it. So that's always something to be aware of. And it's also a great convenience to tell your client where the GFCI resets. I've heard horror stories about people who couldn't open their garage door because they didn't know that the GFCI outlet resets in the basement. So once they find out, they go and reset that in the basement, and now they're in the know, but they thought there was a huge problem. So it's always great to inform people about things like that. It's an excellent convenience. All right, so moving on to our next thing here, we're going to look at the toilet. Looks to be solid at the floor here. Now, kind of looking at the floor, one thing I noticed, there's just a small gap here up at the corner. And small gaps like that is where moisture intrusion occurs. So if you have kids that are splashing around in the shower, that can lead to that bubble in your ceiling. And that bubble is filled with water, which can turn into mold and things of that nature. So that's always something to be aware of, is that you see that the floor is properly sealed near the bathtub so that no moisture intrusion occurs. So that'll definitely be in the report. Another thing we have here, kind of looking at this shower wall, before I turn it on, I see we have some dark spots, some tiles that are a bit out of place. So we have some gaps up near the shower head here in the wall. We also have a gap here on top of the faucet ring or faucet plate where water could get in. So I want to just kind of check and see if I have any moisture there. So we're going to use our moisture meter and kind of get a look at that. First, I'll kind of put it up here at this wall. It says 1.4 moisture in the air, something like that. Down here, got a little more moisture, about 6%. Now we go to these tiles here, 100% moisture. So we definitely have a problem behind this wall, and that needs to be addressed. So it looks like there have been some things done here. It's been caulked a little bit, but the condition of the actual drywall behind here is not good, it seems. So that's something that should definitely be addressed. And it may require some type of remediation. It's hard to know. So both shower heads work. Hot is hot, cold is cold. Tub stop does not appear to work. So those are things that we could report, but things that we call material defects in this bathroom are definitely the high moisture level in the tiles behind the wall. We're also going to call this gap at the floor a material defect. Any of these gaps, just because we know there's moisture there, we'll consider material defects. And then for, the honeydew list, it'd be nice to have a stopper here. And for the GFCI, well, the hunt continues, and we'll definitely make sure we inform our client for their convenience. We have at this stairway some metal handrails. These handrails are actually over 4 inches, and that can be a danger for like a child. So these should be upgraded, because you don't want to have handrails that someone could fall through, get hurt, things of that nature. So that's definitely a recommendation, and that's a safety thing. So that is considered a material defect. So one thing I'll mention immediately, as I come down to this level, there is a mount for a smoke detector, but no smoke detector is present. So far we've seen one smoke detector, appears to be outdated. You shouldn't have a smoke detector that's older than 10 years. And you also want to have carbon monoxide detectors present. So that's a serious safety issue and considered to be a material defect. Okay, so here we are at the laundry area. And there's a few things going on here. First, I'll mention we have an open receptacle box, and it's immediately next to some plumbing. So does not appear to be GFCI protected, and it's one of those things where water and electricity don't mix. So I definitely recommend that a GFCI is installed here. I have not checked it yet, but I will try if I can reach. This is within the same range, and this is not only not GFCI protected, this is also an ungrounded outlet. So we have an ungrounded outlet within 6 feet of water sources. which is, a safety item. So we definitely want to upgrade this, get this to be GFCI protected, just in case there's ever a leak or something in here where water is exposed to electricity. Okay, so just for the sake of my reach, unfortunately, I can't test that one. I can't assume that it's ungrounded, but I could tell that it's unsafe. So that'll definitely be in the report, and we will take a picture of that. So I will turn on this washer to make sure it drains properly. Put it on a quick cycle, a rinse cycle. Dryer appears to operate. Dryer vent actually exhausts directly outside of the house here, so I will take a look at that to kind of see how that looks out there. It's not rigid. It's kind of one of those accordion style exhausts, but it looks to be pretty streamlined, a pretty short distance. I always recommend those are cleaned every year because dryer vents can be a potential safety hazard, or a fire hazard rather. So that's just a recommendation. Just kind of looking at this window here. It's a bit problematic to open and close. I have been able to kind of release this lower part here to kind of check the tracks and see what's going on. Putting it back in the track. Still does not want to raise. It's a double pull window, which does not want to lower either. And of course the locks are out, so it's not locked. So I definitely recommend that a window contractor comes out and checks this one out, because you should definitely be able to open and close your windows. Okay, so sounds like the washer is drying, or washer is draining. Doesn't look like we have any leaks there. Kind of close the door for some noise control. So we are in the half bathroom. So I remember when we checked the first GFCI, it tripped somewhere else. This one actually trips here at the source, and it works well. Once again, no stopper at the sink. And just kind of looking at the trap and the trap weir, there's a little bit of corrosion. It's an older metal style trap. Doesn't look like it's leaking right now, but it looks like the potential is there. So for convenience, I'll tell them that. I mean, it's just always a good thing to do. So just being observant here, this toilet does not shake when I move it, but this nut appeared to be finger tight. And that's actually the nut that actually secures the toilet to the floor. So it's kind of good to look at things like that. Make sure that it's properly secured, that there are no cracks in the actual toilet anywhere, because that can be a potential leak. And if it's loose, it can potentially move, cause the wax ring to be compromised. It can cause a leak. So those are all things that we're looking for. Looks like we have some minor settlement cracks in a couple places around doors, things of that nature. I'm going to take a peek in the garage now. Okay, so the first thing I noticed, we have a GFCI outlet right here. And from the looks of it, it has been tripped. So what this means, most likely, is that the GFCI for the bathroom upstairs is connected to the one here in the garage. And this is actually connected to a refrigerator that's located in the corner. So that's why it's a great idea to always find that GFCI, because, you know, if you spoil somebody's food in their refrigerator, they're going to be pretty mad at you. So you always want to make sure that you find where the GFCI is so you can reset it. And sometimes if they're in garages and things like that, there could be a refrigerator in front of it. And that's problematic. So I'm actually just going to confirm that this is the one in the bathroom, and then we'll continue here in the garage. I'm checking this door. Should be a fire rated door. I don't see a tag on the door, so there should typically be one here, but all indications lead me to believe it's fire rated. And it also closes automatically. Of course, I will still take a picture and just say, hey, there's no tag on this door, confirming it's a fire rated door. We're going to check this here. So we have a wash basin, and also we have an electrical outlet. So this is within 6 feet of a water source. We're going to check and see if this is on our GFCI, and it's not. So this is something that should be upgraded for safety to a GFCI outlet. And those are pretty easy to do. But, you know, we have a live hose right here. We have a space heater. We have all these different things that could be problematic for, you know, water mixing with electricity. So it's just really a good idea to upgrade that. I know some people think that home inspectors go crazy on the whole GFCI thing, but it's definitely a safety precaution. So looks like this particular water source, the hose is connected to this reel here, and it's on. So I think we'll let that be. We'll kind of have to disclaim that, the drainage and everything like that. So kind of looking at the garage door opener and different components here. One thing I'll say, looks like this may be for some type of security cameras or things of that nature. We have some wires that are loose outside of a junction box here. So we definitely want to have like a junction box cover there. And the wire nuts are kind of just twisted up. If that comes loose, we have, you know, open circuits. And in the wintertime, which it is now, we could have critters that get up there and fry some stuff. So we definitely want to make sure that that is contained. It's definitely a good idea. Here at this particular door, it looks like the emergency release is here. There's a lock here. That's right. Okay, so when you flip this garage door and you release it to drop it down, it should actually kind of hover a little bit. So these garage door springs here, this is actually what kind of controls how fast or the weight of the door, how it's adjusted to actually close properly. So what I recommend is a garage door technician adjust those springs so that when it's released, those can actually fall down and not be so heavy to lift. So if you have someone in the event of a fire and they come out the fire door, you want that to slam closed, keep them protected, and we want them to be able to pull this release and have the strength to lift this door. And if this spring is not properly adjusted, then it could be too heavy for someone to lift. I consider myself to be a pretty strong guy, but if you have someone who's 5 or 6 years old that knows how to do this, you want them to be able to escape too. So that's really what this safety provision is for. So now we're actually going to test the garage door opener itself. And I'm also going to check the I-beam. So that's another safety provision, and it's within 6 feet of the floor, which makes it to be in good shape. The next thing that we're going to do, kind of look at these firewalls. Like I said, you know, we have all these provisions for fire in the garage. You know, there's kind of some gaps here that could allow that to be a problem. So I mentioned that in the report. That could be a potentially easy repair. So we got the thermostat set to 80 degrees, interior temperature was 75. So I'm going to crawl into the crawl space, take a look at the furnace, take a look at the water heater, and kind of see what we can find. All right, so we are here at the crawl space, which is located in the garage. So we always want to document our access points where we're kind of getting into crawl spaces at. So we're going to crawl in here. The furnace is running. I'm going to take a look at some things and see what I can find. As we enter this crawl space here, looks like we have some drainage plumbing from that sink in the garage. Definitely want to check the specifications for how long or how far it should be before the next anchorage point is. Because we want to make sure this is properly supported. Doesn't appear to be in bad shape, but it's a little over 6 feet. Actually, it's exactly 7 feet, it looks like, which may be adequate, but I will go to my reference material to be sure. So we have the main water cutoff in the corner. I have my handy dandy smartwatch here, which notifies me that that is the southeast corner of the crawl space. and want to take a look at that, make sure it's in good shape. Does appear to be in good shape. Sometimes I'll caution if it's not in great shape to upgrade to a ball valve from a gate valve. Gate valves are not as reliable as ball valves. And I will state that here as my professional opinion. Moving forward, we're going to be able to take a look at some of the structural members of the home. So we have floor joists that are running north and south here. We also have an I-beam. It's going east here. So kind of looking at this I-beam, appears to be pretty decent shape, properly secured, screwed out about 3.5 inches. I believe 3 is the spec, but once again, we will check the reference material. This water heater appears to be an electric water heater. What we have here, have a TPR discharge pipe, which doesn't appear to be, well, appears to be secured. Of course, we don't have any drains in here, and it doesn't discharge into the pan, so that's something that I would recommend, is it actually discharges into the pan. The water heater is actually from 2011, so that makes it 12 years old. Capacity 30 gallon, so a pretty small water heater. I probably recommend an upgrade for this, just because 30 gallons of water is pretty small for a single family home. But of course, with it being in the crawl space, you kind of got to work with what you got. One thing that I don't really like about this water heater is it appears to be on a switch. So that is not typical. It's not something I would typically see on a water heater, so I definitely recommend an electrical contractor takes a look at it. Also, water heaters of this nature are 240 volts. So, of course, I can't really tell by looking at this this here behind the switch, but typically with a water heater like this, you'd have something that's more like a fuse box or something like that, that really pronounces that it's the proper voltage, is properly hooked up. So that's something I recommend, is that it's evaluated by an electrical contractor. So in opening this furnace cabinet, it looks like they have some self-tapping screws actually holding on the cover instead of the original equipment that was used. Original equipment looks like it may have been damaged, lost, what have you. But the furnace is fired up. Flames look pretty good. We'll actually see if we can get an age off of this furnace, because that's always good information to share. So I removed the bottom cover of the furnace, and this safety switch is effective, so it works. We have the manufacturer's information here, and it also has the age of the furnace. This furnace is from 1995, so it's 28 years old, and 28 years old is a pretty good run for a furnace. So I'll always caution the client that even though it works, you want to take really good care of this furnace, and it's exceeded its life expectancy. So its life expectancy was probably about 3 years ago. So in addition to that, I tell people that these mechanical equipment items are kind of like your car. The more and better you take care of them, the better they take care of you. This furnace filter here is in very bad shape, extremely dirty, and this is something that should be changed. And those are the kind of things that can limit the life of a furnace as well. So just something to take into account. Can overwork the blower motor, things of that nature. I'm looking at some of the areas here at the foundation wall, and we do have some efflorescence here. We have a lot of insulation here. Looks like quite a bit of efflorescence here. Looks like we got some corrosion at some of the plumbing here. Mild corrosion, no active leaks, some shark bite fittings. Definitely recommend monitoring that. I think that's something that should be looked at every time that someone comes in here to change the furnace filter. That is the crawl space in a nutshell. We've evaluated the mechanical systems of the home, checked the adequacy of the visible portions of the foundation. Since there's so much insulation up, we can't really see the whole entire foundation wall, but we will mention some efflorescence and things of that nature. And we will go back and inspect some more things. All right, so here we are out front at the exterior of the home. We're gonna take a look at quite a few components out here. We've had some recent snow, so there's some inaccessibility issues with things like the roof. So I can only inspect portions that I can see. Of course, we will go through and see what we can find and make some great notes. So first and foremost, we'll get a shot of the roof from afar, but there's a lot of snow and things like that that prohibit a true roof inspection. So a lot of roofing contractors in my area will do free roof inspections, and this should all melt off hopefully this weekend. So I just recommend that if you can find a good teammate in town that can kind of help out to do the roof inspection, because clients really appreciate that. And it's always a good help if you could get somebody. In my area, we have the roof brokers. They're great. They come out, they do roof inspections, they help people out immensely. So that's something that I recommend. Moving over here, one thing I'd say that's attached to the roof are the gutters. And although this looks beautiful, this definitely indicates there is some type of leak at this gutter system. In addition to that, we have some limited downspout extension, which is not a great thing. And you can kind of tell that this leak at the gutters has started to cause some damage and moisture problems in this portion of the soffit. So it looks like it's kind of causing the paint to peel. It's going to continue to deteriorate and cause problems. So I definitely recommend a qualified contractor take a look at that and make recommendations. In addition to that, some of the siding on the house, just kind of looking around, is really peeling, which could lead to moisture damage, deterioration. So things like that, when it's prevalent, if it's just in a couple places, it's something that I say, hey, it falls on the contractor's list. But when it's, everywhere, and it can really be a problem that doesn't require touch-up paint, it requires somebody to probably get a painter to come out, I would call that a material defect because it really compromises the building envelope of the home. In addition to that, more downspouts missing, poor grading at the property. So those things are things that I would say are material defects because, we know we have a crawl space. We just don't want to compromise this foundation by, on days like this, or a winter like this where we've gotten a lot of snow, we want to make sure that the water is properly draining away and it's not really compromising the foundation in any way. So we have some cars blocking us a bit, but several concrete surfaces cracked. That'll definitely show up in the report. It's exterior outlet here. We actually want to take a look at this. Make sure it's GFCI protected. And it is not. So the exterior outlets are not GFCI protected. And it's just something to keep in mind, especially if people do things like Christmas lights. You know, it could definitely compromise the electrical system. Oh, we have a downspout extension, but it's not connected. So we were almost there. Here at this little patio area, a lot of peeled paint at the wood. Kind of wobbly, feels like the fasteners are a bit loose. And also the concrete footings for it are in really poor shape. This one is almost entirely disconnected. It looks like I could just pick it up and take it away. So, you know, this is something that should be evaluated by a contractor if they want to rebuild this pretty short deck. But, you know. So once again, we have a gutter. No downspout extension, but directly adjacent to that, we have some trim that looks like it's been recently painted, but we have a nail that's ejecting from it. And what appears to be some deterioration there. I'm gonna use my moisture meter to kind of check, see what we may have there. So pretty low levels of moisture, but just visibly and also physically, you can tell that this is in pretty poor shape. I mean, I can peel the paint directly off the wood. So once again, we just don't want to have any areas of the building envelope that are compromised. At this hose bib here, got water pressure of about 85 psi, and also this handle is a bit loose. It's got a drip but not a leak. I just recommend that's kind of fixed. The water pressure appears to be pretty good. We're at the east side of the house, and we have a gas meter as well as the main gas valve. Looks beautiful. It's painted. No rust, corrosion, or anything like that. So that appears to be in pretty good shape. We also have a main sprinkler valve. This is beyond the scope of a typical home inspection. We're here in front of the house. I kind of wanted to back off our look just to kind of show that there's not really an adequate access point for this roof, considering that it snowed. So what we have here is we have an area here which could be accessible, but there's snow there, could be a potential slip hazard, as well as the middle area there. So I just recommend that you know, they get a roofing contractor come out and look at the roof, just because for my safety, I don't want to really go up there and slip and fall. So that's just my recommendation. Okay, so we have made it to the back of the home now. Just kind of looking at, this roof still, this actually would be an excellent access point. But looking at the configuration of this deck right now, can't really set up my ladder anywhere and really trust it because, you know, there's some hardened ice and things like that. So once again, safety is important, and we'll just have you know, somebody come out, the roof brokers, to kind of give them an assessment of the roof. One thing I will mention though, just kind of looking at this area here at the siding, once again, we've got tons of deterioration there, more peeling paint, just a lot of areas that need some attention. We got a light fixture that's kind of hanging down and just like, you know, this definitely use some paint and just some TLC. So that's something that is a material defect in my opinion. Another thing that's really important, these handrails aren't graspable. That's one thing. But another is this electric panel. You're supposed to have 3 feet in front, 3 feet to each side. We have a bunch of dog cages, things like that, that limit our access to this electric panel. So it really does a disservice to our client if we're not able to open this panel up, take a look inside of it, make sure that the circuits are properly landed, that the proper gauge sizes are used for the breakers. So this is something where, in this instance, with all the snow and the other safety things that could go left, that, you know, I would really disclaim and show up as a material defect in my report. Of course, I don't expect them to reconstruct the deck overnight to give me that 3 feet of clearance that I need, but I would expect for there to be some type of provisions made. Now, as I've opened this, I noticed that I don't have to worry about removing the dead front cover on this one because there is not one. So the dead front cover is missing in this particular electric panel. I see some double tap neutrals. Can't really be sure if there are any double tap breakers, but I definitely have some loose circuits in there. And we don't have a dead front cover. So the latch is also broken on this, so this won't properly close and latch to ensure that it stays closed. And, you know, as we can see, there's a lot of potential moisture back here. So we're definitely going to recommend that an electrical contractor come and look at this. That really did kind of help supplement our inspection of the electrical system, because we wouldn't have been able to see that if there was a dead front cover. So they should definitely have one of those installed. So moving on here, as I said, the handrails aren't graspable, so that's not very safe. This is actually the dryer vent that we were talking about. Unfortunately, I can't really get a great look at that. Just from here, I could see that one of the footings for the deck is badly cracked and damaged. So, and it's actually through the cage that I'm kind of seeing that, but there's definitely some damage there. And when it comes to decks, there are a few things that I'd like to check. I'll see if I have access on the other side, but, you know, I want to take a look at the ledger board and a few other things. Stability is key. We have a retaining wall here that's coming this way. That's not really a good thing. Of course, I recommend that somebody comes and takes a look at that. Because if someone has children, there's always a possibility that, somebody could grab something, it could fall on them. This is all safety stuff in my opinion. Okay, so now we made it to the back side of the deck here. I'd like to make sure that the ledger board and stuff is in good shape. Looks like we have a snapped fence post. Fences are generally beyond the scope of a general home inspection. But once again, this could be a safety thing. So that's pretty loose there. You know, I have an 8-year-old son. He likes to climb things. Self-explanatory. So looking here. So this style of deck does not appear to have a ledger board. It actually is held up by those pillars or footings, if you will, one of which was badly damaged on the other side. So, the deck, the retaining wall, these areas here, the handrails, I just recommend that it is evaluated by a contractor for safety because we want to make sure that, people are protected. So we're finishing up here at this inspection. I want to tell you about some of the major items that we found, which would be things like the leak in the bathroom, the mold behind the wall. In addition to that, we didn't have any current smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. Also, the electric panel was missing a dead front cover, had some improperly landed neutrals, things of that nature. And we had quite a few other things in there, but those would be the major ones that I'd like to list. The building envelope as well, just a lot of peeling paint, stuff like that. So those are some major items. Thank you all for riding along with me with this inspection today, and we'll see you on the next one.